Hello, viewers, and welcome to yet another episode of the Rise of Startups in India. Let me introduce myself before we begin. I'm Supriya Rai. I'm an associate editor with Cybermedia. Those of you who have been tuning in regularly, I'm sure will know that Cybermedia, in association with Crayon Software Experts, have been doing a series of episodes covering a range of topics with regard to the scalability of the startup ecosystem in India. Similarly, today we are going to be discussing the journey to the cloud at the peak of innovation. The pressure of innovation and the applications to contribute to the economy and society is on the rise for startups. And with the mounting innovation cycle comes the need for increased scalability and flexibility. The access to data has to be seamless and the structure has to be device agnostic. This also raises the question of improved storage and reduced costs. Startups, therefore, are defining their cloud journey and looking for a scalable, reliable, and cost-effective solution to help them with innovation and growth. In today's interview, we will explore how startups can adopt a cloud-based approach for their business. To discuss this further, we have with us today Mr. Kapil Kapoor, the Chief Technology Officer at CredAble. Hello, Kapil. Thank you so much for joining us here today. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Likewise, Supriya. Thank you for welcoming me. Looking forward to this very interesting conversation.
Thank you, Kapil. So like I was saying, Kapil is a technology executive with over 24 years of experience as an international leader building enterprise software for big global tech companies. He has led engineering teams in Asia, Europe, and North America. We also have Mr. Vikas Bhonsle, the CEO of Crayon Software Experts with us. Hello, Vikas. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Hi, Supriya. Like always, looking forward to yet another engaging conversation with Kapil this time.
Absolutely, Vikas. So Vikas is an industry veteran. Yeah. So Vikas is an industry veteran with over 30 years of experience in sales, marketing, business development, and client relationship management. So with this context, Kapil, I'd like to come to you first. Could you tell us a little bit about your brand and how you're working towards financial inclusion? Over to you, Kapil.
Sure. Thank you, Supriya. Excellent question. I think this is something that we are very passionate about. So CredAble as a brand was born out of his founder's strong resolve to solve liquidity and enable better working capital for the full ecosystem of India businesses, both like everything from large to medium, and especially to small and micro ones. So they had experienced it as an existential liquidity challenges as entrepreneurs doing business before they started CredAble. Therefore, they decided to create a digital financial solution that provided a tech-based financial and trade intermediation platform for supply chains. Though it was conceived for India, it is a problem and a market need that exists worldwide, especially in all developing economies. So the CredAble is a tech platform that enables all stakeholders in the ecosystem to participate. So as such, is very inclusive in its design and access. And these stakeholders are large enterprises that run complex supply chain financing programs, financial institutions, small and businesses, SME businesses. So all of them are catered by our platform. So the large and the multinational enterprises, they can run early payment programs for their supplier and customer base with a choice of multiple lenders offering credit. So these lenders get the scale while positively managing risk. Especially for the small businesses that kind of participate on our platform directly, they get critical credit, trade, and cash management tools. These are growth tools to manage their business. This enables them to have better working capital cycles and the liquidity to thrive since they get real-time unsecured working capital. And for financial institutions, they can buy CredAble's tech stack as a managed cloud-based service. So this enables their customers, large to small, to get the supply chain financing credit solution. So instead of building this tech in-house, they get a world-class tech solution that's easily operationalized for their customer needs, and these financial institutions can then focus on serving all their client segments, especially the MSMEs, with broad and deep solutions. So overall, we feel like everything that we do is there's kind of financial inclusion baked in because we cater to the full ecosystem, and especially a lot of our solutions are directed for MSMEs and help them get kind of the credit for their growth journey. So
Thank you so much for that context, Kapil. I mean, it's wonderful to know what CredAble does for financial inclusion. So you mentioned innovation and you work on a lot of innovative tech products. Why would you say cloud adoption is important for innovation and growth?
So we are natively a digital organization. So cloud is in general our foundation for growth and innovation, and we use it for our technology infrastructure, software development, business, and tech operations. So it gives us many benefits. So as a startup, when we use cloud in infrastructure and software, it enables us to build digital capabilities whose operations can inherently can inherently quickly and easily scale. Also, the agility and the cost effectiveness that comes in doing natively things on cloud for infra cloud and infra software and tech operations. That means our business teams get the go-to-market and also the TCO or the cost that creates differentiation and competitive advantage. So if you look at this, the agility, the TCO, and the GTM that come from combining cloud SaaS in business and technical capabilities with our own cloud IP creates a really a very strong kind of solution for the market that we are addressing. And since a lot of these PaaS and SaaS cloud providers which we use are responsible for their own capabilities, product scaling, securing their data, and managing IT operation, it frees Credable's digital talent to kind of dedicate itself in creating innovations and capabilities, which is our differentiation. So we don't need to solve the full big problem. We need to take the path that we believe where we create differentiation and kind of dedicate our resources to that. So and also it just by kind of optimizing our resources to build our own IP, it also helps indirectly because our business teams can then also kind of go to market faster. It's better for our business development. It improves our customer experience relationships, and we can test a lot of new growth strategies. So overall, cloud is just very foundational to us.
Thank you so much, Kapil, for that. And Kapil, you mentioned some of the benefits that cloud adoption has to offer in terms of TCO, agility, and go-to-market. However, Vikas, now I'd like to come to you. Adopting cloud can be quite challenging for startups who might not exactly know how to go about it. So I cannot think of anyone better than you to answer this question. How can startups adopt a cloud-based approach for their business processes?
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting question. And, just from a statistics standpoint, the adoption of cloud in a country like India is only about 15%. So a lot of companies do struggle with how to go onto the cloud. And it eventually starts with, what do you really want to achieve? And Kapil said, right, I mean, he wants his digital resources to focus on innovative solutions. And he doesn't want to take care of all that cloud brings and all the technology has that that technology can bring along with itself. And I think in my experience, what happens is there's a lot of confusion when people just migrate, one particular workload to the cloud and think this is the overarching transformation strategy that I have cloud and I can get full benefit out of this solution. No. In this kind of an approach, the architecture that you end up building over a period of time becomes too cumbersome and very expensive to use. So, to get full value of cloud solution, you can't do one-off tactical kind of solution. You need to do a very holistic digital transformation strategy, which involves adopting very modern security measures. It means standardizing and automating an IT environment with open API models. It means operating in agile automated environments. And then, of course, really looking at opportunities where you can go and build innovative solutions. What model you will build, whether it is going to be on-prem or public or hybrid. And there are different models that are coming up now. There's an industry cloud, there's a distributed cloud, there is a poly cloud, there's a sovereign cloud. But eventually it really means, what am I wanting to achieve? So it begins with an assessment. The assessment has to be on at least 3 vectors of cost, of safety, and architecture. I mean, how cost effective it is going to be, what's going to be the level of security I will have, and is the architecture going to serve me, how long it's going to serve me, what are the changes I will require, what are the resources I will require. So it begins with that assessment. It has to be holistic. It has to be the whole state that you have. And then you really need to look at what all can I start moving onto the cloud or start holistically from the cloud. Then it's about running a POC. And these are pilots that you will run. And the pilots are essentially run because you want to involve all the users to gain support. Okay? Because most of the time when you try to do something which is very different, the biggest resistance comes from people wanting to change. So you involve people and show them the benefits of what's going to come while adopting the cloud. Then it's the actual migration, the data migration, the application migration, which could be one whole monolith block, or it could be in an hybrid fashion using native cloud services. But it's also about eventually then creating a landing zone for your cloud architecture and developing orchestration strategies and automation strategies. It becomes very, very important from that standpoint. And then obviously you would want to then start looking at how do I optimize? And by optimization, you mean, am I making the optimum use of my resources? Am I taking out all the blockers in my cloud? Am I monitoring the performance of the cloud so that I can get an early signs of any anomalies, and then hence I can go back and re-engineer the cloud in areas where it is not able to provide the full value that it is supposed to, right? So it means the whole 9 yards of starting an assessment up to going up to optimization, and then really you need somebody who can cloud manage this through a proper managed services offering, right? There are several players out there in the market today. It's a very, very crowded market who know the complete know-how of how you can adopt the cloud by really looking and assessing your as-is stage and where you wish to be. And I think all that one needs to do is be very clear where you want to go with this. And then there is a lot of help and expertise available in the market to do so.
That's great, Vikas. Thank you so much for giving us a unique insight into that. So Kapil, now I'd like to come to you. Startups are in a constant scale-up phase, if I may say. They want to grow, they want to become a unicorn and then a decacorn and, things like that. So what are the factors that they usually look into before zeroing in on a cloud, solution provider or a vendor?
Sure. Yeah. So there are a few things that we look into. So I think the topmost being security and compliance. I think that's one factor that we look into. We also look at their technical capabilities, such as their architecture. Is it natively cloud, or is this that they've kind of migrated themselves to the cloud? That helps us to know how flexible it will be when we want to integrate and compose and create new solutions with them. Cost is a very big factor. Also, who are we buying from? The business health of that organization. And finally, as we use them for the long term, what's their support and kind of service levels? And finally, I think something that I really look into is can they become our strategic partners when we're kind of zeroing on them? So we want them to come and understand our business, get a kind of insight into our tech secret sauce and the operations culture, and then kind of consult us as we use their capabilities into our solution. So we basically want providers that are less transactional in relationship with us, but are more kind of partners and can offer us a consultation beyond their surface offering. So in the end, we're looking more for partners who bring a kind of a best-in-class solution and consulting capabilities in their area of expertise, and kind of become partners for us as we go through our own cloud journey with them.
Thank you so much for that, Kapil. And you have kind of asked the next question that I mentioned that I had for Vikas. So Vikas, Kapil already mentioned that, startups look for security compliance and technical capabilities and data security. So how can solution providers address these issues for startups?
So when you really look at cloud, you're really talking about security, you're talking about cost effectiveness, you're talking about scalability and all of those things. Most of these things can be achieved at the time of adoption. Right? The proper adoption ensures that you're able to manage some of these things. Let's talk about security to begin with. Right? Now, cloud data security is a combination of tech, services, processes, security controls that protects your data in the cloud from any form of loss, misuse, leakage, either through a bridge, either through exfiltration, or through unauthorized access. So essentially, you need a very robust cybersecurity strategy. In my view, there are 3 or 4 important things you look at. Security is a very, very big, it's a very huge space that we speak about. But when it comes to cloud, it's a little different than it comes to on-prem, right? So there are 3 or 4 things I would like to talk about. One is the data bridge, which, as I said, it's a little different in the cloud than on it, because breaches in the cloud comes more from misconfigurations. They come from stolen credentials, vulnerabilities, access, which is inappropriate. And I think that needs to be properly managed. Misconfigurations are the number one vulnerabilities in the cloud, because what it eventually ends up doing, it gives you disproportionate amount of access or privileges on access on your accounts. Uh, it it provides insufficient logging, and it gives a lot of vulnerability, rise in vulnerabilities, which hackers and attackers exploit. Unsecured APIs. We all businesses use APIs to transfer data, to connect services, and sometimes this APIs turn some of the data points into endpoints. And so if you have endpoints which are insecure, of course you're going to be exposed to a breach. And then it's all about your access controls and unauthorized access, right? When you are especially using multi-cloud environments, you tend to rely on the access controls of your public cloud providers, and that may not be fully secure. So you need to be very careful. There are n number of techniques that you can have, host of solutions that you can really look at. When you really look at scalability, scalable cloud architecture, in my opinion, is all about virtualization. Unlike on-prem resources which have fixed performances resources, virtual machines are very, very flexible and can be scaled up and down. You can host it on one server, or you can host it on multiple servers. Applications and workloads can be moved to larger VMs based on demand, and all this can happen very conveniently at a click of a few mouse clicks. It is very fast, it is very cost effective, and you can of course build a very strong data recovery and backup strategy using VMs, because they're so flexible and easy to use. And then cost effectiveness, cloud in effect, if managed well, because sometimes the cloud, I have spoken a lot about this, that cloud will tend to go out of control if you do not have the right kind of measures. But really, if you're looking at cloud in itself, is a cost-effective solution, because you're not going to pay upfront. You don't have to worry about personnel to really take care of maintenance and things like that. You have higher productivity. You have lesser use of capital. And if now look at how the world is evolving, this is a simple example. There are technologies which are making the whole shift to cloud super effective and efficient. For example, use of cloud services. It's the new way in which software development is happening. Instead of having one large monolith block of an application, you have modular services which are connected to APIs, which make it super scalable and super cost effective. So there are ways and means to do that, and cloud is the best solution in my mind to be able to achieve that.
That was great, Vikas. You gave gave a very simple outline to a rather complex question. Thank you so much for that. So Kapil, now I'd like to come to you. CredAble is now doing really great. You're scaling. You're doing very wonderful in the market, if I may say. However, I mean, you are also in the know of the kind of challenges that startups face when they adopt, the cloud technology. So what are the challenges? What are the common challenges that, startups face while adopting the technology? And, if you could outline it for us, it would be great.
Sure. Yeah, I think some of the challenges that we face as CredAble, and that I think it applies to a lot of startups also, is one is you need to go, when you're going on your cloud journey, you need to make sure that the service providers that you bring in give you a long-term attractive TCO. I think that's very critical. Also, when your tech solution is now cloud, you also need to have, you have to also procure and retain digital talent, which has cloud native skills. So that becomes very important. Just building it and operating it and requires those digital challenge. Also, cloud will bring some architectural and operational complexity that, with all its benefit, that you also take on some complexities that come.
Yeah.
We're also a fintech, so we have to be very mindful of regulation and compliances, data security. And as a startup, you also want agility, so you don't want a vendor lock-in. So all of these are really challenges that we kind of look at when we are trying to find a partner for a particular business or a technical capability, and bring them into our kind of solution and make them a part of it. So So there are a few strategies that we look in as an organization. So first is we decided to be multi-cloud. It also avoids us having a vendor lock-in. So that is very important for us. We also, like, as I said, we offer our tech stack as a managed service. So we also need a lot of that flexibility because some of our customers may, for competitive reasons, not want to support a particular cloud platform. So we make sure that we are multi-cloud. That gives us also agility when we're in the market. We make sure that their architecture is natively cloud. That means it has microservices, it's a distributed architecture, decentralized, it has API designs in their services. So we can easily compose and pick and choose what we want to use of their service offering in our architecture. And that allows us also composability and quick and easy integrations. And something that Vikas also mentioned, like we look for container-based deployment patterns on the cloud also. So that gives us CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery, and also containers as deployment patterns give you a lot of easy interoperability. And then when it comes to regulation and data security, we look for best-in-class providers who've already solved and embedded global compliance standards and the security best practices in their service. So we don't really have to think about it. We only have to think about when we are building our IP and how does that IP in the overall solution adhere to that. So it kind of also makes sure that we can optimize our own digital workforce to only focus on solving those problems and not get overwhelmed with solving such problems for all the capabilities that compose our solution. And as I said, again, something that Vikas also kind of mentioned, it's when you partner with cloud providers, you can also optimize expensive digital talent. In our case, we only want to use our digital talent to build CredAble's unique IP and market differentiation, not solve things that is already commodity technology, or you have other service providers who are already best in class in that, and it's not our core IP. So that's there. So I think, yeah, it's a combination of all of these things that I mentioned. So hopefully that gives an insight into how CredAble's technology strategy is in terms of facing the challenges that come in the cloud journey and how we are addressing it.
That was actually a very unique insight, Kapil. That was great. Thank you. And you mentioned fintechs, and how data is extremely sensitive when it comes to fintech. So, with that, I'd like to come to you, Vikas. So it's not just fintech, Vikas. I mean, data is extremely sensitive when it comes to industries like healthcare and e-commerce and name it. And data, everybody is now aware of the importance that data holds. So what would you say are some of the steps that organizations can take to ensure that they're not just cloud first, but also cloud secure?
Yeah. Like I said, it's a very, very difficult question to answer because, very few organizations have a very secure security posture, so to say. Most of them do not know where to start with. When people talk about cloud, the first thing that they worry about is, something is going to live in my premises. So how secure is it going to be? And with the amount of data, devices, services, and this whole thing about work from anywhere, borderless world, you are exposed to enormous amount of risk, right? So, for me, I am a big believer of it begins with assessing where you want to go. What are your objectives? And how do you transform your security posture to address the gaps and manage the risks, right? It means developing a very strong security architecture and design, running a very strong security transformation program, maybe even having a RESI metrics built in for the security posture, who needs to be responsible, who is accountable, who needs to be consulted, who needs to be informed. It is a very holistic view that organization needs to look at from their data standpoint. And there are several techniques. There are several solutions, several techniques. I'll just name a few. And this is not, of course, an exhaustive list, but a few things that we need to take account of when we talk about security in the cloud. Things like authentication and your identity techniques. Are you the guy who is supposed to access, or are you an imposter, so to say? So do you have enough techniques within the organization to make sure that the right person is assessing the right amount of data? A multi-factor authentication immediately comes to mind. You use your password with something else like an OTP, which we use, most of us use in our everyday activities when we are interacting with banks or e-commerce companies and so on and so forth. So that becomes super critical. Simple things, educating your workforce, use of reliable passwords, regularly updating policies, standardizing the policies, having a very strong backup and recovery strategy, right? How do you, do you have, how soon can you recover from a breach? Where is your data, stored as a backup if something were to happen? And I think cloud in that sense gives you a great opportunity to build a data and a recovery strategy. Encryption is another thing I can use of making sure all your devices that are assessing your environment have all the regular patches. One of the things we've seen work very well are SIM solutions, your event management logs that you can look at. You can proactively kind of look at threats and detect them and then kind of diffuse them. So this security information in event management solutions from various vendors, I think are a great way in which you can build a strong security posture. Then, of course, having the right amount of secure tools and policies within your cloud environment. And I think some of the things like these are important. And eventually, then it means, how are you then managing? Are you having a security operating center that kind of monitors constantly as to what's hitting your environment and providing regular updates and patches and making sure that there is an early detection and then you prevention detection, and then if there is something were to happen, then you're able to kind of mitigate the risk associated with it. So it's a very, I would say it's a very loose response in a way. We need to get into a customer's environment and understand what he has, what are the endpoints, what is his network like, what is architecture like, what business he is in. And again, there is regulations when you come to fintechs and healthcare and insurance and so on and so forth. Some others are not as regulated. So it's a combination of various things that you need to look at in arriving at a very secure, very, very strong security posture for the organizations.
Thank you so much, Vikas. And, with this, we come to the end of this episode. And Kapil, I'd like to thank you for sharing, the kind of challenges that startups face in terms of cloud adoption and why they should be adopting cloud. Thank you for sharing the benefits. And Vikas, thank you for telling us about how organizations can navigate through all these challenges and still benefit from all that cloud has to offer as a technology. This was a truly informative episode. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I'm sure our audience will truly appreciate this as well. Thank you so much, Kapil, and thank you so much, Vikas.
Thank you, Supriya. Thanks for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thanks, Kapil. Thanks, Supriya.
Thanks, Vikas. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.